So welcome to this masterclass. Your host today is Sharon. No, not say Sharon. Lillian and Stanley. I am Stanley. Currently sitting in Sweden, Stockholm, but a Zimbabwean, both by birth and by upbringing. So I'm one of those Africans. You can't take the bush out of me, even though I live in Europe for 20 years. And Lillian, do you want to say a few words about yourself? I know your voice does not really carry today, but you should be able to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Stanley. Good evening, everyone, and I warmly welcome you too. And thank you for sparing time to attend today's masterclass, the last one for this year. I'm sorry, I'm battling a flu and my voice is not at, but I believe we'll be able to carry the day. But you, Stanley?
So I think we can start by talking a little bit about ULab. And for us, most of you know what we are talking about, Ubuntu Lab. We have been gathering for a couple of years now. And sometimes we have guests that come to talk to us about different issues that pertain to our well-being. And sometimes we run programs, like last year we ran a program for the YMCA on leadership. And we have these masterclasses to just connect and explore deeper some of the subjects that are important for us. And we will discuss a bit more about what Ubuntu means to each and every one of us. And the format of the program today is that we will have a discussion about war, some of the wars that are going on in the world, including probably the war that's going on inside yourself. And we will have a breakout for about 10 minutes to discuss, and then we will come back again and do another round of discussions where we talk about the key insights. And at some point around 8:15, I will, 7:15 for most of you, and probably, 7:15 for most of you. I will introduce an exercise which is about receiving and sending compassion. And then we should be able to close after about 1.5 hours, which will be 8 for most of you. Okay. Now, Linda, we would ask you to read for us what's coming on the screen as a welcome.
From a distance, the world looks blue and green. And the snow-capped mountains white. From a distance, the ocean meets the stream and the eagle takes to flight. From a distance, there is harmony and it echoes the land. It's the voice of hope. It's the voice of peace. It's the voice of every man. From a distance, we all have enough, and no one is in need. And there are no guns, no bombs, and no disease, no hungry mouths to feed. From a distance, we are instruments marching in a common band. playing songs of hope, playing songs of peace. They are the songs of every man. God is watching us. God is watching us. God is watching us from a distance. From a distance, you look like my friend, even though we are at war. From a distance, I cannot comprehend what all these fightings for. From a distance, there's harmony, and it echoes through the land. Faith, hope, love, and it's the hope of hopes. It's the love of loves. It's the heart of every man, every man. When you find peace within yourself, you become the kind of person who can live at peace with others. Ubuntu. Ubuntu speaks of the every essence of being human. We say, hey, so-and-so has Ubuntu. Then you're generous, you're hospitable, you're friendly and caring and compassionate. You share what you have. It is to say, my humanity is caught up, is inextricably bound up in yours. We belong in a bundle of life. We say, a person is a person through other persons. A person with Ubuntu is open and available to others, affirming of others, does not feel threatened that others are able and good. For he or she has a proper self-assurance that comes from knowing that he or she belongs in a greater whole and is diminished when others are humiliated or diminished. When others are tortured or oppressed or treated as if they were less than who they are. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite.
Thank you, Aggie. A lot to reflect on there. What we would like you to do now is reflect on the wars that are going on in the world, the different conflicts that are going on in the world, and share some examples and reflect on how these wars are affecting you, or how do they make you feel, and how are they turning up in your life. So we will have this discussion in plenary for the first maybe 25 or so minutes. And for those who can't speak for any reason, you can write in the chat and someone else will read for you. So the floor is open. What are the wars that are going on in the world today that are in some way impacting you in your life? Lena, please.
Thank you, Stanley. Of course, there's a war in Sudan. I found overnight I am homeless. That's the biggest impact, and my people are, people are dying. They're suffering. It's very difficult to process. And of course, there's a lot of, so dealing with that and processing that is a lot. And just looking around and what's happening in Palestine and, just watching the massacres live is just very difficult. And I just find it very depressing. I'm trying to find hope. Thank you.
I just want to add.
Go ahead, Barak.
I'm also war in Sudan, which is affecting our people, and we are seeing the whole destructions of infrastructure, of people dying, of children out of schools, family implications that, we have to evacuate everyone, and we have to, is a whole new, we are badly impacted by that. And also we're seeing others as family and friends who are in need of finding ways of being safe somewhere. So displaced their places or traveling to seek refuge in other countries. So all of that is just making it very, very stressful and difficult. And among that, I'm working also now with my organization responding to what's happening in Palestine and in Gaza. Also seeing the number of children, like 5,000 children so far died. And we see that's how they are attacking hospitals, and where also you see babies dying goes out of their incubators. And so it's again, that's you don't believe that this is happening in this century, and you don't know what happened to a human being. That's just being human. That's, seeing all these civilians and innocent people are just being killed for nothing. Those who are fighting are somewhere, and the civilians, children, women, and they're paying the price for that. So yeah, this is just impacting us very badly. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena. I'm going to introduce listening here, which is a key component of our practices. And I really want to pay attention to what is being said, the emotions behind what is being said, but also particularly what is happening to you when you listen to what our brothers and sisters are sharing in this space. And if you are going to be the next speaker, I want you to build up on that, build up on the feelings, build up on what is arising in you as you listen and hear what others are saying. So there was one hand, and I can't see it right now. Someone help me. Yeah, Intisa.
Yes, that was my hand. I raised it and lowered it, and then raised it again and lowered it because Lena said something about Sudan, and Marek also said something about Sudan. I just would like to say a few words about the suffering of the females and of the young girls, and the many cases of raping and yes, the psychological impact of such things that is going on. And it is not 1 or 2 or 5 cases. These are hundreds of cases of raping that has been going on in Khartoum state and then in Darfur as well. And I'm not sure about Kurdistan, but this is one of the things that is really needs to stop from us, because the psychological trauma that has happened to the girls or to their families or to their children, even for the mothers, is immense. And I know that after the war ends, we need a lot to help these females and to help the people in my country, Sudan. Thank you.
I feel very emotional listening, especially to our brothers and sisters who have shared from Sudan. And then I think about you, Lena, being homeless with a young baby. And as Isia has said, the women, so many of them having to be separated from their children. And what Mubarak said, that he's in Gaza watching babies in the incubators. I can't imagine how those mothers who have carried those babies for 9 months, looking forward to bringing up a child in the world where they'll be looked after and have a life. But that life may never even start. I mean, it's so depressing, so depressing to watch the news. And it just makes me feel like the world is coming to an end.
Anna.
I want to speak a little bit about this feeling of something being unreal and a little bit schizophrenic for me. You know, if you in that opening poem that you had, the poem was speaking about being from a distance, and it's this. I feel a bit as if I'm reeling because there's people on this call that's in Sudan who's just lost a home, for example. And it's this strange experience of myself sitting in Quebec at the southern end of this continent, thinking about the wars and responding to the wars, but from a distance. And then this experience of having Lena and the colleagues there that is in Gaza and in Sudan. And at the same time being on this, being part of this conversation. And yeah, it's a little bit as if I'm not quite sure how to orientate myself. It feels as if I'm losing my mind in a way. It feels not real.
Isa.
Yeah, it is. It's just like a nightmare. As Lina said, we cannot believe that we have just, expelled from our houses, from our homes, from our memories, and we have been just many of our families displaced within Sudan, others who left the country, and you can imagine one family who is just displaced in different parts of the world. Some are in Sudan, some are in Egypt, others in the Gulf area, some who left to other African countries like in Uganda or in Kenya or in Ethiopia. So it's a bit just between day and night. We found ourselves two parties fighting, and we have to leave our houses. Not because of the fighting only, but because we have been ordered to leave the houses. We have been expelled, compulsively. So it is hard to believe that we just left our things, our memories, and everything there. It is hard to see that many people are being killed in this fighting, for which the reason behind it, we don't know what it, except it's just two generals who are fighting between each other, and they are just looking to who is going to win and to preside on our country and to rule Sudan. But for the rest of the things, it is just crazy what is going on there. It's a nightmare, as I said, it's a nightmare. Thank you. And excuse me, Lina knows that we don't know whether we will be staying in different parts of the world as we are now. Lina now in a different country. I'm in Egypt now at this moment, and my sister in Sudan. We don't know whether we'll continue here or going somewhere else. We'll go back to Sudan. We don't know anything about it.
I could read what Sandy has written. Well, politically, economically, and socially, the world is in a serious chaos. I can't really differentiate between barbaric from civilization again. In this era, and we the humans don't value human. We humans only have humans as our major resources, but why are we like this? Sudan, Russian, Ukraine, Israeli, Palestinian. People are dying, children are being killed. Others are rendered homeless. Come on, we should think. My take. Lubega says, it's really sad and amazing how humanity is abused. People massacre without fear or favor.
Sharon.
Thank you, Stanley. In some ways, also having that sort of schizophrenic feeling of Hannah, I almost feel unworthy to say anything because of the reality of people being so much closer to the reality of the chaos of our time. And I think for me, it's just like an enormous sense of sadness that we have, or the groups that are fighting have lost seemingly the total sense of humanity. They're fighting, not wanting to speak to each other. So fight to what end? Fight till there's nothing left, and then what? I think I'm referring to some of the quotes in the opening pieces from Tutu and Mandela. It's just I don't know, just incredible. I can't really use another word but sadness, that, you know, where's our humanity gone? And how do we make that humanity tangible again for people that have lived through or who've grown up in violence? Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Before I go to Lena, I would like to just remind you to breathe, because I find myself holding my breath listening to this sharing. So I remind you, just please remember to breathe. Lena.
Thanks, Stanley. I just wanted to share that it's you know, I think part of it is just questioning this humanity and what can we do? And it's interesting, the schizophrenia part of it, because to a large part sometimes, and I say this to my friends, and I say, I don't know if I'm holding up or I'm hanging there, or there's gonna be this moment of a nervous breakdown. But just watching what's happening, I just today yesterday I was watching when they got the hostage children were released, and then on the other side the prisoners, and I just couldn't stop crying. And I think part of it, I'm bottling up these feelings about what's happening back home and all that Saad has mentioned earlier, and Mubarak, and but sometimes you look at and just the fact that we're just, as a world, what is our role? And part of it is social justice. I mean, for me in Sudan, I think a lot of it is about, it's everything that's gone wrong, when you just wake up and you say, how did we come here? And then you can ask the same question for what's happening to us in the whole world, right? How is it that we're here? And how is it that and it's on our watch, and are we doing enough? And then there's that huge sense of, am I doing enough, or am I not able to do anything, or is there nothing that we can do? And it's battling with these questions of, am I just watching this? I think that's the difficult part for me as well. Thank you.
Sharon?
What Lena mentioned now just reminded me of a similar, battling about the same thing, and getting so depleted by the situation and what we can possibly do, and thinking of the words where we sometimes say, pay attention to the things that are within your control, and then within your influence, and the stuff that's beyond that, let it go, and feeling incredibly dissatisfied with that. So if the stuff that is beyond our control is what is causing all this mess, this tragedy, how can we just let it go? So I don't know how to deal with that. If the forces that are causing this are beyond us, somebody is in control, somebody is influencing that. So why can't that be us? And if it is us, how do we do that? So just the general feeling of dissatisfaction of saying, well, that's beyond my control, so don't worry about it. I can't absorb that.
I'm listening, and very sobered to hear kind of these first-hand accounts of things that otherwise are things I'm reading about or seeing from a distance. And I'm seeing what Ilse's written in the chat about trauma, and this is where my mind was going as well, in terms of, these three sites of war that we're talking about in Sudan, Palestine, Israel, and Ukraine, Russia. And so conscious of the dimension of unresolved intergenerational trauma, in all of these sites. There is such a history of cycling, of unresolved legacies of trauma. And for me, that's where the work lies. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I appreciate Rebecca's perspective on generational trauma. A lot of the issues that coming up in a lot of the wars and everything else that's going on right now is based off of disagreements and misunderstandings that are decades, sometimes centuries old. And I just cannot resolve how that can still be a relevant reason to look at the person next to you and think that this person should suffer for something that happened a year ago, 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. How is this helping the situation here and now? I know it's a little hard it might be a little hard for me to understand, especially because I am so far detached from a lot of the emotions that are festering these activities, but it just baffles me how not just a single individual, but a collective of people can make a decision to say that it's worth risking the lives of my countrymen for another person to suffer the consequences of actions that were taken a long, long time ago in the past.
Wasia.
Thank you very much, and good evening to all of us. I don't know what I'm feeling. For the last 7 months since the war in Sudan broke, the war in Sudan broke while I was in Sudan. And for some time, I've tried to shelter myself from following what is happening. I've not even been able to follow up on the war in Gaza. But one of the things that I would want to reflect on is that even within this chaos and madness, there are people who care and protect other people. I was a stranger in Sudan, and some people opened their homes to us. Other people gave us a lift in their vehicle without knowing us, and just drawing our attention that they are heroes and heroines in the war, and we need to remember them as we remember those who are causing the wars, that we need to reflect on these other people. And like somebody said, how can these people be supported in the efforts that they are making to sustain others?
Twashed or Twahed. I hope I pronounce your name right. Basha.
Hi, how are you? Yes, Tawheed. My name is Tawheed, thank you. So as I'm listening to what everyone is saying, I think for the first time I could really allow myself to feel. I'm actually from Sudan, and I allowed myself to just like feel what I'm like because since the war started, it's just like it was like a shock. And then I'm living right now in the United Arab Emirates, so it's like I've been disconnected or like I numbed my brain from thinking, because for the past 4 years, Sudan anyway has been going through a lot, and no one is talking about it. And even and when someone here like commented about trauma, I remembered something I learned earlier this year about negligence trauma. Like, it's like no one talks about it for a long time. like in general, the African matter, people are suffering for so many years and no one is talking about it. And now when other countries suffer, a big fuss happens. And it doesn't mean that it's all not important. It is all important. But it's like in Sudan, it was happening trauma after trauma to the level that when Gaza happened, I myself didn't talk about Sudan as much as I was talking about, even that I'm Sudanese. It's like I even neglected the trauma that I'm feeling because I'm so used to being neglected as a country, as pain, as something that is, I don't know how to describe it. It's just that all of this, what everyone shared and all of this just kind of floated those feelings. It just, it's just a continuous feeling of, I literally don't know what to say. It's just, it's just literally like in an eye blink, everything is lost. Like literally everything, literally like whatever, like whatever we built there, whatever we have, whatever even memories, even like people literally die every day, literally. And no one gets to even give them a proper, I don't know, they don't get buried properly. They don't get, like it's just weird. My uncle died recently and we couldn't even, I don't know, I don't want to talk too much. It's just that it's like all of these just floated now when everyone was talking, and it's just, yeah. So it's yeah, it's, I think it's, no one prepares you for anything like that, or I think all of us can, I don't know, it's just, yeah. And even talking about it outside of things like this is really not easy, not even with people who are going through it as well. So yeah, thank you so much for giving us that one. Okay.
You. Linda, would you like to read us the charts? Starting from where you'll stop last time.
So Tawhid said helplessness. Ilse, how do we inquire into the notions of Ubuntu and trauma? On this call also, can Ubuntu also serve as an adequate response to trauma? Vongai says helplessness and trapped. How do we inquire? Okay. So we need to think about Tawhid and Agi both brought up Congo, about which the media is not covering and which is going through war as well. And we need to question the meaning of justice and peace. The international community, organizations, and laws, it seems they aren't existing. Okay. Sharon is saying it rightly, beyond our control. Okay, as people react and everything, my screen is disrupted. So Sharon, beyond our control, is it in vanity? Others don't have feelings for others. How can humanity, at expense of power and money, not taken as superiority and supreme? What is man? What is he made up of? Seru says hypocrisy. Shivunda says education has been going, but people are becoming more and more inhumane. What is happening could be wrong, could be a wrong created by how we teach society. Many societies don't teach human values. If they do, possibly we need to question how we teach what we are teaching and whose values we teach. I love to listen to conversations like this one, but is it enough to transform our society? Maybe we need to take these conversations to schools and include the young ones to take part. These are the ones that end up being militants anyway. One would wonder what makes a group of adults to have no regard for human life. Which politics are we playing? Why are we so differentiated one to another to a point of growing this much hatred? Conversations can allow healing to slowly take shape. We should not avoid hard conversations. I agree with the issue of generational trauma, and these are the things societies ignore. The Gaza situation clearly shows that intergenerational trauma is real. Rebecca says, thank you, Asi, for reminding me to also see the acts of kindness that are also always there in war, but generally unnoticed. Ngwase says, in addition, there is also the subtle identity-based conflict in a number of countries, which the world does not really publicly talk about much. The inherent resulting emotional distress and trauma has the potential to transcend generations. Mlondozi says, what is the cause of war and what can be done by rational human beings to stop this? Joanne says, interacting with these conflicts from a position of privilege where we can choose to or choose not to indulge in prevention, response, or mitigation. What would Ubuntu say? Look away? Engage? How must one engage in a struggle? We must use our reflections more proactively. What is this season teaching us? What kind of world do we want to sustain? Who needs to do what? Developing knowledge products such as the Ubuntu approach to conflict, the Ubuntu way in times of conflict, would go a long way in teaching future generations what to do when faced with times like this.
Thank you, Linda. And this is a good break into the next activity, because that's exactly what we would like you to discuss. The question is, how can the concept of Ubuntu help us to cope with challenges caused by this conflict? So let's hear a few reflections. What were the key insights? What are your takeaways from the breakout?
My friend Banda can present group one. That's group one.
Okay. was a very interesting conversation that we had. First of all, I must mention that the situation in Uganda, as it has been described to me by Lubenga, is not a situation of peace, which is a little surprising, to be honest. I know that we spoke about a lot of countries that are going through turmoil, unrest, wars, and other struggles that we have heard of, but are not actively being broadcast broadly. But at the same time, you have so many other little struggles that are going on in so many other countries that are not spoken about at all outside of these countries. I don't know if anyone here outside of Uganda knew that there's actual killings and actual fighting that is going on in Uganda, even as we speak. So that was a very enlightening moment for me. I think for us, the summary came down to the fact that a lot of this unrest, a lot of this conflict comes from the concepts of capitalism, where you have individuals and organizations who are looking to see how can I gain as much as possible for me and my people within this period of time that I have the opportunity to be leading or making the decisions for not just myself, but for a large group of people. A large group of people might be a government, it might be a country, it might be a rebel group. But typically you find a lot of people are more narrow-minded and short-sighted, looking at what they can gain for themselves and the next 2 or 3 generations of their lineage, rather than considering the benefits that they could gain for their country or for the globe if they were to make slightly different decisions, which would then manifest in a better world in a little bit longer time. And it might not benefit their people immediately and directly, but everybody would be in a better place for it. And so rather than looking at myself and seeing how I can gain, looking at the next person and thinking, what can I do for my neighbor to be in a better place 100 years from now and tomorrow as well?
We have maybe 2 minutes for someone to come in and share their reflections before I do the exercise with you.
Stanley, can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Hello, everyone. This is Joan. I am from Uganda. In my group, one of our reflections was that there is need for us to seek forgiveness and reconciliation. And one of the processes that we benchmarked was the biblical principles of reconciliation, where ceremonies would be conducted, where families would come together, reunite, so as to seek forgiveness from each other, to seek forgiveness from different community members. And it has also happened in our cultural settings. We felt like that would be very instrumental in burying the hatchet wherever there has been conflict, wherever there have been mistakes, to use just that approach. The other conversation was to have prayer, which is non-institutionalized forms of prayer that facilitate reflections on the personal. So we agreed that we needed to each develop a central nervous system that allows all of us to feel each other's pain. That means whichever approach we take to prayer, meditation or reflection, it should enable honest conversations, honest dialogues on the harm that has been done in order to facilitate healing of the trauma that has been caused as a result of conflict. We also agreed that conscientization of the masses or the different individuals that would be engaging in the future should really be multi-sectoral, because conflict is not only being driven by people in governance or by people in the religious spaces. All of us play a critical role in enabling
We lose her.
He hoped that if dialogue is to happen, it be multi-sectoral, intergenerational, and it just really facilitates inclusivity of different people in their diversities. We also had a brief chat about speaking out and for different people in their spaces to speak out against the evil that is happening. And the point that we posed at was, how do you speak out in a digital age where there is information overload without doing much harm? Because there's a lot of misinformation on the internet, and so many people are using it for the right and wrong reasons. But how do we stand out as a leading voice for social good, a leading voice for peace, a leading voice for Ubuntu? Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanne. You mentioned practices like prayer and meditation. So the practice that I'm going to introduce you to, we are going to do it together, is really about recognizing that we do feel when we share with our colleagues, with our friends. If you are like me, your body is probably vibrating at a very, very high level because of all the emotions that are happening as a result of what I'm hearing. Most of the time when that happens, we go and do something else because we can't take it. It's so much for us. And this practice is about how can we stay with it? How can we stay connected to the emotions that arise out of these experiences? It is based on the belief that your heart is big enough to take it. Your heart is big enough and has a possibility to expand to take the suffering of the whole world and process it and send back love, send back lightness, send back the relief that is required by whoever is affected. And by practicing this regularly, you will find that it actually starts to make sense. You start to actually embody this practice whenever you are faced with a situation where there is suffering. And we also, one reminder for myself and for everyone here is that for me, Ubuntu means that everyone is me. When I'm suffering, you are suffering. You don't cut off your hand because your hand is painful. On the other hand, you actually give it love when your hand is painful. So if we thought of other people as a part of us, that's what we would do with them when they are suffering, including when they are screaming at you because of the suffering that they feel inside. You can actually have the capacity to choose love instead of fear in that moment. So I will ask you to bear with me. We're going to do this exercise for about 10 minutes. And at the end, we will have time maybe for quick reflections, preferably just quiet, and then we say goodbyes. I will guide you through it. And I would like you to sit with dignity and grace, whatever that means to you. Hopefully, if you are sitting on a chair, back straight, feeling firmly supported by the chair, but also with your feet on the ground, being supported by the earth. So in this exercise or this practice, we will be breathing in the suffering of others and breathing out our heartfelt compassion to them. You are turning to face suffering, not run away from it. For this practice to be effective, it needs to be done regularly. So sit comfortable with your back straight and your eyes lightly closed. So I will start by having a bell which will ring 3 times, and then after that I will guide you step by step. Okay? I want you to breathe in as deeply as you can through your nose, hold the breath, and then push all the air out through your mouth. So let's begin. Breathing in. Now sit quietly and bring your awareness to the breath as it enters your mouth or your nose and leaving your body. So pay attention to the breath as it enters your body and then as it leaves your body. Make sure you breathe normally and your breath is slow and relaxed. Let's do that for 30 seconds. I will now introduce this practice to you. So negative thinking causes us to make poor choices. So by doing this meditation, you will be letting go of negativity, opening your heart, and developing critical thinking that will lead you to make wise choices. The practice also helps you to deal effectively with difficult people and stressful situations. You will be replacing negativity with compassion and wisdom, which will help heal yourself, each other, and the world. So we start this practice with focusing on yourself and then moving on to someone you love, a neutral person, someone you dislike, or finally the world. So let's begin. As you breathe in, let desire, anger, jealousy, fear, or attachment, or confusion, or something other negative emotion come to the surface. So imagine you are in that situation where you are feeling anger, you are feeling jealousy, you are feeling desire, you are feeling fear and attachment or confusion. Just let that come to the surface and feel it. On your out breath, breathe out this negative thinking and fill the empty space with your heartfelt compassion. So if you imagine that as you breathe out, you are letting go of that anger or that negative emotion. As you breathe in, you are breathing in compassion for yourself. You could even imagine that you are breathing in lighter air, lighter quality of air, which is much more fresh. Do that a couple of times. Breathe out the negative emotion or feeling and breathe in heartfelt compassion for yourself. Breathe in your negative thinking and then breathe it out again. Fill the void that is left with your compassion. And yes, if you are holding too tight, you will get tension on your shoulders, and do move as needed, please. Appreciate that you want to be happy, but your negative thinking causes you to make poor choices that lead to suffering. By letting go of the negative thinking and developing compassion towards yourself, you will be free to make wise choices that lead to happiness. Negative thinking closes the heart, upsets the balance in your field, and leads to illness and suffering. Whereas compassion opens the heart, brings about a balance, and promotes health and happiness. So the second part of the exercise now, you're going to turn your attention to someone you love. Imagine someone you love. Recall a time when your loved one was suffering, or maybe they are suffering right now. Breathe in their suffering and breathe out your heartfelt compassion to them. So you breathe in whatever suffering they have and say to yourself, my heart is strong enough to handle this. And then breathe out heartfelt compassion to them. You can almost imagine that as you breathe in the suffering, your heart purifies it, and then you're sending out compassion in the form of light or whatever you want to imagine. So the third part of the exercise is now think of a person that is neutral to you, someone you meet probably often but never talk to. Could be your bus driver, it could be your shopkeeper, it could be somebody that you just pass on the street today. Think about how this person is suffering through sickness or poor choices. Breathe in their suffering and breathe out your compassion to this person. So whatever you imagine this person is suffering from, you breathe that in, purify it with your heart, and send them compassion. And appreciate that this person wants to be happy, but is suffering instead. Open your heart to this neutral person. The fourth part of the exercise is now think of a person you dislike, someone you think has hurt you. Breathe in their suffering and then breathe out your heart-warm compassion. And appreciate that this person, like everyone else, wants to be happy, but because of negative thinking, this person makes harmful choices that lead to suffering. And by having negative thoughts about this person, you are increasing that suffering and making the situation worse. Develop compassion for this person so you can think clearly about how to deal with them in a way that brings about good consequences. Fully open your heart to this person. Now, let's breathe in the suffering of the world and breathe out compassion to the whole world. Breathe in all the sadness, the poverty, the sickness, the intolerance, the loneliness, and all that negativity in the world, and all the wars and the children that are suffering through these wars. And breathe out all the compassion your heart can master to help heal the world. Remind yourself your heart is big enough to handle all the suffering of the world, and you have enough compassion in you to send compassion to heal the world. Be conscious of that the world wants to be happy, but too often make unwise choices that lead to suffering instead. Appreciate that by developing universal compassion, you can help to relieve this suffering. Open your heart to the world. Now we are going to come to the end of this practice, and we want to do a purification practice. I want you to visualize the suffering you breathe in as black smoke in your heart center. You need to let go of this black smoke so it doesn't increase your own suffering. As you breathe out, imagine all the black smoke leaving your heart center. Then on the in-breath, breathe in the pure white smoke of compassion that the world offers to you. And let that white smoke or white light fill in your heart and your whole being with compassion towards yourself, towards everyone else, and towards the world. Do that until you feel light and feel a sense of relief. And in 30 seconds, I will ring the bell again. And follow the sound of the bell and feel it take you away. So you can slowly open your eyes if you had them closed and come back to the center. I know that we are 4 minutes over time. Before we say our goodbyes, I would like to hear a few voices.
And don't forget Olaf's picture.
Oh, yes. Lena.
Thank you. Thank you, Stanley. I just want to say thank you very much. I think this was, I found it very powerful and profound, this final exercise. The breathing is just amazing. At some point, I felt that it was really hard to breathe and, just having like trapped air, which was, but, I really feel much better. And it was great. I really appreciate this session because I think maybe for the first time to kind of speak a bit about it and what's happening and how can we hold, the space and also what can we do as Ubuntu. And I think there's so much that can be done so that, we see less of this in the future, hopefully. I'm very grateful and appreciative. Thank you and blessed. Thanks.
Thank you. Lubenga.
Thank you very much, Stanley, for this exercise. I feel so good and I feel so happy because I can see there's a lot we need to accommodate. When I breathe in, that means I have to listen, I have to accommodate, I have to be flexible and see many things happening, not just to close my eye, but also open and listen. Then when I breathe out, there are things there, that feeling but compassionate feeling for others, where others also need to be considered as a human being, and whatever you do, it is helpful, it is help them, maybe to be human at the same time, to support them, and think of empathy, other than just saying, yes, this is happening, but empathy, what is it that can be done? Be practical. I've liked the exercise, it is practical. Thank you.
Thank you. So shall we go to Olaf? Olaf, what do you have for us?
I think I don't even want to put words around it. I just invite you to look at it. And I'm deeply thankful, grateful to have been part of this session.
So, Lillian, how do we close? I know that after this exercise, most people want to be quiet. So my proposal then is that since this is our last meeting before Christmas, let's say happy Christmas in whatever ways we do it in our communities or in our families. And remembering also that maybe there are people who don't really celebrate Christmas in our community, but we just wish you the best in terms of spending time with your families if you can do that. So before we close, shall we just unmute?
Yeah.
And at the count of 3, say whatever you want to say, for this season, and then we close. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Merry Christmas.
Holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Share with you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas. Sleep well.
Bye.
Good night. Rale kurungi.